Good morning and welcome to Home Nurseries. I'd like to introduce you today to Morgan. He's joined us as a new recruit and a new colleague. Today he's going to help me out plant a new tree, and we're going to demonstrate how to do that with our modern thinking and how we do them now. And we're going to be planting them in the lawn area as well, which is a little bit different than planting into your normal soil borders. There are some excellent. Morgan, these are some of the products that we need to plant our tree. Once we've chosen a tree, and this one happens to be a field maple, Acer campestre, we've chosen it because it's a native tree. It holds a tremendous range of organisms on there, about 234. It has, and it has particularly another use on top, which it'll help clean the atmosphere and take some of the pollutants out of the air at the same time. So it's a lovely tree that we've selected and thought about. The next thing we're going to think about is the positioning for the tree for the long term. So we've looked around the garden or the environment and decided where we would like it. We've made decisions on the position, on things like, is it the position within the garden? Are we trying to cover a view that's causing us concern? Or we do want to plant it where it will enhance the view? Or do we want to plant it near the house where we can sit in the house and enjoy the tree as well? So we're looking into the garden, getting in the right positions. Our initial thoughts are around that. Here we've selected it into a nice lawn area. We've got a nice backdrop of other trees as well, and that will hopefully, when it's matured and filled through, it'll enhance the backdrop of the trees behind us as well as bringing some life into this area of the gardens at the same time. So our first thing we'll be looking through are the materials that we would need to be able to plant our tree properly. And in here we've brought a tree stake, which we may well need for supporting the tree. At the end we'll make a decision if we definitely need to use a tree stake. Sometimes if you do the correct planting and a bit of care and you've chosen well, you may not need to put a tree stake and belt on. So we'll use that, we'll make the decision, we'll use these at the end of the planting process. We've got a soil conditioner, which we would recommend of Eco Tree and Shrub. This is a locally manufactured organic product that will enhance the soil and improve the soil structure when we plant it, and slowly release nutrients over time. So that's that will be our soil enhancer. We've got a product that we will mulch the area once we've finished planting, which is our Eco Mulch, which is a woodshed product. We will use that to mulch the area afterwards, which will help conserve moisture and helps weed suppression, and over the longer term really improve the soil and the soil dynamics and structure as well, and the environment within the soil, which will then also enable the good long-term support for this tree as well. We've got seaweed, which we will use to water in the tree after we've planted it. The watering process will help consolidate the soil around the plant and the root systems and drive out some of the air that's in there as well. The seaweed also acts as a biostimulant, so it'll encourage the new roots to grow after 3 or 4 days and into that environment. And there's other chemicals and minerals within the seaweed as well that will help improve the soil in that area around the tree, as well as helping support the tree as well. We're also going to plant and use within it Mycorrhizal fungi. We sell a trade name Root Grow. We will put that in the place of the planting hole as close as we can to the root structure of the plant. So when that germinates after about 4 weeks, that will then join in with the tree that we planted and give it some long-term benefits as well. But these are the essential products that we will use when we're planting a tree. Please note we're not using chemicals like bone meal, which was a traditional way of adding to your soil when you planted it, fish blood and bone, or things like growmores. We no longer consider those to be beneficial to the tree in the long term, and certainly for the soil in the longer terms as well. They're no longer required, and we would recommend using these products instead. One of the elements that we're going to do is, when we're planting a tree, is we've decided the site and position. We're going to plant it into a lawn area. We said earlier that we need to take a bit more care when we're planting into lawn areas, but while we're doing the preparation work, one of the most valuable things that we can do is make sure the tree is really well hydrated before we plant it. And the reason why we brought the bucket of water across is so we can sit it in water for 20 minutes before we consider planting it. So we're lying in full of water. Initially you're going to get air bubbles coming out. Hold them in gently. Once the air bubbles have stopped coming through, it'll stabilize in the water and it will start getting hydrated. We'll leave him there for about 20 minutes. So he's thoroughly soaked. We've used the arms of the wheelbarrow just in case it wants to fall over. It'll give it a bit of extra support. I might lie it just down. There we are. Just allow it soaking. The reason why we're going to show you planting in the lawn some of the issues that we have around it is grass produces a chemical hormone out of its root system that may slow down the root development of a new tree that goes in that environment. We get a number of photographs of trees which are performing poorly, and when we look at the base of the trees, quite often there's turf or lawns or weeds growing at the base of the tree, and they're impacting on the successful planting of that tree. Also, the lawns, if they're left in situ, will take food and nutrients and compete against the tree as well. So we want to, ideally when we're putting a tree in, we'll remove the turf for at least a 3-foot area, maybe 4-foot area around the tree, and we'll leave it clear of lawns for at least 3 years. So no lawn area, so it's completely clear for 3 years. And the way I normally make up my hole is I get the tree stake, which we may or may not use later on, just drive them into the ground, find a piece of rope or string that's about 18 inches long, loop it around your turf cutter and just go around the hole. And as you're going round, if you keep the string taut, it's going to give you a nice 3-foot hole, and simply done. And when we've finished going all the way around cutting the turf, we'll then remove that turf from the area. We'll just keep going round. If you like to go that, Morgan, that'll just make a starting point. Keep it nice and taut and just go around and push it in. Works, doesn't it? TJ's not very impressed with this at the moment, but he'll join in shortly when we expose what's underneath, and hopefully he'll find one of his bones. There we are, we've gone round the tree. We've made a cut into the turf at about 3 feet in diameter. So the next process, you can't see it clearly, but it is there. What we'll do now is take this turf away. We'll cut it away and we'll try and take off the top 2 inches of soil. We won't disturb the subsoils below that. We'll just remove it as a layer like we're taking the turf off it. He's getting excited, waiting for his bone. Right.
So David, I've got a couple of questions about the hole. The first one is, how deep do you think the hole should be? And secondly, how do you properly dig a hole?
They're both really good questions and really important as well, particularly when we're planting a tree. My best advice is, because soil is layered in structures, and we find that the best bacteria and fungal life and the life of the soil is in the top 10 inches of soil. So my advice always is, once you remove the turf, take out the top 8 to 10 inches of topsoil. That you will put into one side, which is why we have a wheelbarrow. You'll put it in a wheelbarrow or on the floor where you'll put down some plastic sheeting, so then you can improve that soil, which is why we've got the eco tree and shrub. You'll mix that through with that top 10 inches of soil you're taking out. The whole diameter will be about 2 inches bigger than the container that you're planting. So here we've got a container that's about 10, 11 inches across. Our hole is going to be 13 or 14 inches across. Once we've taken that topsoil out, we'll have a look at the base of the hole. We'll use a fork to break up the base of the hole, and we might go down another 8 inches below that. We'll make a judgment as well when we go in the bottom of the hole. If it's clay soil, then we may remove 1 or 2 spadefuls, use it somewhere else in the garden, and incorporate some grits or gravels in there if it's poor subsoil, just to make sure we've got adequate drainage below the plant, so it's not sitting in waterlogged ground. So we'll do that as well, so it's important. Next process, now we've created our outline where for the turf. Now we've marked that, we need to take the turf away, and we'll take out the top 2 inches. And the easiest way of doing it is getting your spade, pushing it in a couple of inches. You don't need to go much deeper than that. Pretend you're cutting turf. Go as a pie crust or quarter, cutting in to the edges, cut across again. So then you can put your spade in at the edge, push it forward. It takes a bit of wrist strength, but push him in, keep him close, if you can, parallel to the ground, and it should lift out almost like a turf. And there's your turf removed, about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. And you can use that somewhere else in the garden. You can turn him upside down in the compost heap, so it'll break down and rot down, so that it can be reused. Don't discard it, reuse it somewhere else. Okay. And we'll just put those to one side quietly. And we'll go around the entire hole and do that process. As I said earlier, the reason we're doing it is just get there. It's easy this way, isn't it? Activities. So we've known that if we've got worms in there, we know we've got good healthy soil. Morgan and I are just going to catch our breath for 30 seconds. That took 3 or 4 minutes to do. It's not very long at all, but it's allowed us to take the turf away, give that 2 inches off it. We've got a nicely clean, defined edge to it as well, which looks nice in the garden, and we will give, when we've finished, a nice professional finish to the job. What we're going to do next is do the preparation hole. Now for this, an easy way of doing it is using the pot from the tree. I'll take the tree out, allow it to drain. You can see the root system on this. It's a young tree. It's not root wrapped, it's not twisted in any way. It's nice white, it's vibrant. It wants to get into the soil, it wants to grow, it wants to live. On this one, it's a beautiful stage that we've got them at the moment. These are 3 years old, perfect. Use the plant pot as a former for the hole, centrally. And you make, I said earlier, you need to make the hole, Morgan, about 2 inches bigger than the diameter of the pot. So you'll go around with your spade, just mark it round, and then we're going to take out the top 10 inches of soil. We'll either put it on the ground, or in our case, we're going to be a bit more tidier. We're going to pop it into a wheelbarrow. Excuse me for sniffling. Right, Morgan, one side each. Let's get this hole dug. Top 10 inches is dug out, and we're going to pop it into the wheelbarrow for improving. Please note that we're not going to try and disturb the surrounding soil. We're going to leave that intact and undisturbed. The advantage for that is fewfold. One, the beneficial bacteria aren't damaged, the beneficial fungi aren't damaged, the soil integrity has been kept, and it's not been destabilised. When we put the tree in, because we haven't disturbed all that area, we may not need to put a tree stake in, because it can be firmed back around the plant straight away. That's why we're not doing it. Okay. Just check the hole diameter. We're about 2 inches bigger on the hole. We know it's about 10 inches deep. So if Morgan puts his spade in, you've got about the depth of the spade on the top of the hole to level to your soil level. So now we're originally at the right depth, and we've taken out the active topsoil. If we needed to, we would improve that with the eco tree and shrub. So if we mix in about 20% of the eco tree and shrub through that mixture, that's our back planting mixture, that should be enough to help improve that soil and maintain it for a little while. What we'd come back to now is break up the lower levels, and for that you'll just need a fork. I want you to fork in and go down about another 8 inches, but just breaking up the surface. You also notice on around the sides of the soil, we've left it slightly rough. This is really nice, because we know if it was heavy soils, and we could smooth the surface of the soils a little bit, so those roots would find it more difficult to get through that smooth surface. Leaving it slightly rugged, the roots will get in there with a bit more ease. Okay. Very good job there, Morgan. I think you're a natural.
It's beginner's luck, David.
No, it's natural. It's in the genes. That's it, Morgan. I think that's lovely. What we've done is we've broken up the subsoils. We've been looking at the soil as we're doing it, and we know we've got good soil down there, so we know we will have good drainage. So we won't need on this occasion to worry about digging out some of the subsoils and replacing it with some gravels or other materials to make sure we've got good drainage from the area. So that soil looks really nice, so we won't worry too much about that. What we'll do is just level it off quickly, and then we'll come back and we'll improve and show you how to improve the topsoil that we're going to be using for refilling the hole. That's really nice, thank you, it's a good job. That's lovely as it is. Just going to check the depth on the hole. It might be. We might need to take some out. Because this is subsoil, we may not necessarily want to incorporate it into our topsoil that we're going to be improving. Our first process, Morgan, is going to be improving the topsoil. So into that we're going to put a good quantity of the CountryCare Eco Tree and Shrub. For this, we forgot to bring a pair of scissors. TJ's checking his hole for bones. He looks a little bit disappointed, his tail's down because he hasn't found anything. A bit more. This is our Eco Tree and Shrub. It's an organic material. It's quite coarse, but it will break down nicely into the soil and release nutrients over time. It'll work as an insulative factor as well, but it'll encourage organisms to grow in the organisms to multiply and grow in the soil as well. So the long-term benefits are quite substantial. And we'll just work that through the topsoil. Just work it in a little bit, just to give it a bit of an improvement. I usually find a fork's the easiest for this. It's like mixing your porridge. That's a really nice backfilling mixture that's rich in organic materials. And the way I normally use it, Morgan, is I use the plant pot as a former for the hole. So I've popped him in. This is the same dynamics as the root ball. So the container's gone on. We can see it's a little bit deeper than the soil level, which is handy. So to build the level up, we'll put in some of our conditioned soil. I'm going to borrow your spade. Thank you. Put a small quantity of that in the bottom. Oops, she comes. It's a bit heavier than I thought. Space it in. Firm your pot in, and now we're back at the soil level that we need to be. So we backfilled it nicely, and it's firmed in at the base. What I'm going to do is we'll backfill halfway around the side of the container, and then firm it in home. And then firm it home. There we go. As Morgan's backfilling, I'm just going to give a little gentle tamper with the tree stake, just to help firm it ever so gently in place. So easy. Let's go on that side of it. There she goes. Cool. Keep fill it about halfway. Mm-hmm. We filled it about halfway. We've backfilled the hole about halfway around the side of the pot. We've firmed it gently, and we think, like, if we take out the pot, what we should have is a lovely inversion sandcastle shape of the root ball of the tree that we're going to be planting. The reason I've done it this way is now that we can put the mycorrhizal fungi into the base of the hole and around the side of it, and know when we put the tree in, we get really good contact with the root system of the plant, so it's important we get that as close onto the root ball if we can. So, read the instructions on mycorrhizal fungi. These are a 12 litre container. So for 12 litres, we'll be putting in 7 scoops of this material. It comes, luckily, with a scoop in it already. So we'll open it up. It does repeat it. Oh, blimey. Okay, well, if you want to put in 6 or 7 scoops around the side of it, around the base of the hole and around the sides. You can be more generous if you wish to. There's no harm in being a bit more generous.
Just to confirm, David, do you mean 7 scoops around and including the hole, or 7 scoops and 7 scoops around the outside?
No, 7 scoops into the planting hole.
Okay.
And if you want to put a little bit onto the root ball as well. And I'll just measure it, yeah, put it on, I'll just rub it in. That's it. Here we are. That's fine. Lovely. Pop your tree in top of the mycorrhizal fungi. Because of the way we've used the pot as a former, we know that's sitting on the base really nicely. We can finish backfilling that, and we'll bring the soil level in on the plant to the same soil level as in the container. We'll try our best not to plant the tree much deeper than the soil level in the container, and not higher. If we plant it 1.5 inches, 2 inches deeper than the soil level in the container, that could cause long-term damage to the tree. If it's planted too high, it may also expose some of the surface rootings of that new tree that's gone in as well, and that may slow things down at the same process. So try and get the soil level as near as you can the same, give or take 1 inch, 30 centimetres. So we'll finish backfilling around the tree, and then we'll firm it home. Perfect. Now firm it home, and you can use your heel for doing that, and just make sure it's settled into a good home. Give the tree a little bit of a wiggle if you need to, just a gentle wiggle, just to make sure it's all settling in. But do be firm with your foot. Get him in there nice and firmly. So he's settled in, he's firmed in. Well, firmed home now. What we'll do is we'll take some of the moss at the top soil out, and we'll use that to make a dam around the outer edges of the planting hole. I do this so when we backfill with water, just put a little around it, just a way around it. This little dam is so when we make up our 2 gallons of seaweed. Oops. Yes, 1 cap in 2 gallons. Give it a gentle swirl round. We're going to use, once it's diluted down, we're going to use that to water it home. I like the idea of using a rose faced upwards on watering cans. It goes in more gently. It's more like rain going on the water than a hard slosh. And it has the same effect. This will help consolidate the soil around the root balls. And the seaweed, as I said before, is a stimulant, will encourage that root activity to happen as well. In 2 gallons, we'll give it a good start in life. On top of the 20 minutes it's had in a barrel of water already to make sure it's fully hydrated. I wouldn't suggest leaving it in there for much longer than that. Certainly not overnight, because driving that will may cause sitting it in water for too long, for 24 hours, may actually cause some damage to the root systems. Once that's allowed to drain away, you will then come back and you're doing the next process, and that will be making sure that the area is mulched properly. And for that, we're going to use wood chip. We just let it first drain away a little bit more easily. As you can see, it takes a couple of minutes, but that's because we've firmed back in the soil that we've prepared fairly well. So it's taking its time, which is good. But the worms are enjoying it. They're already coming out to say hello. Just give that minute to run away.
How long would this process usually take, or is it different for each tree? How long will it take?
It's a good question. The timings will be a little bit different. I normally give myself, depends on the soil that you're planting it mostly, but I would recommend between 15 and 20 minutes to plant a tree with a bit of care, which is a very significant amount of time in reality when the tree is going to be there for, as this example, centuries. I normally just tidy up a little bit. A tidy environment is a good working environment. This planting, we've watered it home. We've allowed slowly for the water to drain away. Once it's drained away, we'll need to come back and then mulch it and make a decision when we need to put a tree stake on it. Now, because we hadn't destabilised the soil around that area and loosened that up and backfilling quite firmly and then watering it home, what we'll find in this sheltered position, the tree top can move in the wind, but the root ball is really nice and firm and stable in the ground. So we may not need to tree stake it. What we'll judge in the future, if the head moves around and we see the root ball moving in the ground, then we'll come back and we'll put a tree stake on it to really give it good support. If it was moving now, we would definitely put a tree stake on it. And we put a tree stake on it for about a year to 18 months maximum. We won't put it any longer than that, because the tree then becomes reliant on that as a structure for support for the rest of the time. And the easiest way to put tree stakes on is literally, rather than going vertically, is put them in at 45 degrees, decide which way the wind blows mostly. So if the wind predominantly blows from this direction, over the hedge and through here, then we put the tree stake at an angle so it went away from the wind. So the point would go on the leeward side. So if the wind blew the tree, it pushed the stake in more firmly and keeps it supported. So we do it that's the way we make our decision around there. And we put it low down at 45 degrees because primarily it's easier to drive home with a hammer, so we can do that. And we'll put a tree belt about 18 inches above the ground. We don't do a high tree belting position, we make it nice and low. If we support it too high, the trunk doesn't move, and the systems within the plant don't tell it then to develop the trunk density and volume and strength, and the root system won't develop properly either. So low staking is really important. We won't need it on this occasion. Once we've made that assessment, we're not going to stake this one, we're fine. We're going to mulch it. And our preferred product for mulching trees in lawn areas and borders is using a wood chip material rather than bark. We'd always use a wood chip now in preference. We would use bark primarily for pathways in dry areas. Wood chip is an extraordinarily good product. It helps with water conservation, weed suppression, and a really important long-term improvement of your soil structures as well. We've used it here in the gardens, and when we move back the wood chip that we've got, the earthwork activity is extraordinary. There's a whole new life in the soil, and the tree and shrub, this material, the eco mulch, is making that happen. So what we'll do is just mulch it up, and we'll put it on about 2 inches, 3 inches thick. Be generous, don't underput it. Be generous, 3 inches thick, and we'll go to about 2 inches away from the trunk. So we don't pack it up against the trunk. So we leave it against the trunk too much, there is a chance that we may get some basal rot. So we try to move it away a little bit from there as well. So let's get her on 3 inches thick. It's a very nice activity. Wood chip smells like woodland.
It does smell good.
It smells good, doesn't it? It's like, you can get down on your hands and knees with this and push it around, and it's extremely rewarding. So not only do I use it for tree planting, I use it at home for my borders. I use it on my allotments for soil improvement. It's made such a dramatic change to my allotments. For example, I've now got really active moles, which I'm quite happy about, because if I've got moles, they need a food source, and their primary food source is worms. So when I expose the soil now, it's teeming with worm activity, and my crop production is going up really nicely. So I think it's all based around this, right to the very edges, all the way through to the edge of the lawn. Nice and thick. That's it. I'm smiling because I think that's a terrific job. I think that's it's beautiful to see something that's planted properly, thoughtfully and carefully, and this tree is going to be happy now for generations and generations to enjoy. We will do a little bit of aftercare as well, so we'll check the watering on it. We'll come back once a week and make sure it's watered very well. And by watering, we mean to put on 6 to 8 gallons once a week if it doesn't rain. Because in our minds, 10 gallons of water waters 1 square yard, 6 inches deep. And we want to get the water down as deep as we can. We want to try and get it down to make sure those roots run out nice and deeply. So we'll put that quantity of water on, let's say 6 to 8 gallons, maybe 10 gallons once a week, and do it really, really well. So the plant will thrive. We will also come back and check and make sure we do a mulching around there on an annual basis just to keep the mulching levels up, and we'll keep it weed free, and we won't allow the grass to grow either. So we've got no competition going on there at all. Everything we put into this effort is for the benefit of this tree, and it will thrive because of what we've done, and it will thrive if you do the same processes in your garden as well. Well done, Morgan.
Thank you, David. Just one more question for you, David.
Yeah.
How long as a whole will this process take if it all runs smoothly?
The tree, because of the seed we've incorporated into it, we should get some root activity after 3 or 4 days. So that's starting to grow into the soil that we've improved and reconditioned. After 4 weeks, the mycorrhizal we put in there will germinate. It'll then get into the tree and start that process of living with the tree for the rest of its life. So that's the sort of timescale. 3 days for roots to grow, 4 weeks of those relationships to start, and longer term those relationships will build up with the soil, mycorrhizal fungi and bacteria within it, and all those environmental things that start fitting together as well, and that will help over time. But what we've done will maximize the potential of those and improve the speed at which those processes fall in place. So we're helping nature do the right processes. We've also chosen a good time of the year to plant them. We've gone for the autumn period. The weather is still warm. The ground is still warm as well. There's moisture in the ground, and we know when a leaf changes colour and the leaf starts to drop, we get a really strong active root growth as well. So the timing is right. So we'll get good activity now. That'll come through the winter months, and in the spring we'll get a second growth of root systems when the temperature gets above 4 degrees. So it'll re-establish a second time. So we've got 2 establishment periods before it gets into the summer, and hopefully we'll get a pleasant summer this year, and it'll keep on growing from that. But if it's a drought year, we'll follow the same process for the remainder of next year as well, and we'll, with that weekly watering regime, if it doesn't rain, of 6 to 8 gallons once a week. Yeah, There we go. Good
Brilliant.
question.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much.